Megan here with Land to Learn at the South Avenue Garden in Beacon. And today I'm going to show you how to create a Three Sisters garden. The Three Sisters are corn, beans, and squash. The Three Sisters are just one great example of Native American agricultural genius. The Three Sisters are companion plants, meaning that they all help each other grow in different ways. Corn leaves form a pattern that allows sunlight to still reach the ground for the other two sisters. The stem is straight and strong, providing a perfect place for beans to grow up. But corn pulls a lot of nutrients from the soil. Beans help replace these nutrients. Beans are nitrogen fixers, meaning that they can take atmospheric nitrogen, which plants can't use, and they convert it into a form that is useful for all three of the sisters. The beans also will stabilize the corn during heavy winds. Squash plants grow huge leaves that help shade out weeds, retain soil moisture, and they're covered in little prickles, which help keep pests away. All three sisters also have roots that are at different depths in the soil, meaning that they never compete for water. The last really cool thing about the Three Sisters that I'll get into today is that when you eat them all together, your meal is nutritionally complete. Corn and beans have tons of important amino acids, making an ideal vegetarian meal. And the squash adds extra minerals and vitamins while also adding this delicious sweetness to whatever you make. Here's a quick look at what our Three Sisters patch looks like in the school garden. We use popcorn that we plant in the middle, and then we surround our popcorn plants with different varieties of pole beans so that they can wrap around that strong corn stem. And then way down in between all the corn and beans is where we put our squash. Native Americans across the continent would use varying methods to plant the Three Sisters based on specific local weather patterns. Today, I'm going to show you just one method that's worked really well for us in the school gardens. First, you pick your seeds. We like to use a popcorn variety as our corn. We like to add a few different varieties of pole beans for color. And we love the Jack B. Little pumpkins because each class gets to have their own. As soon as the threat of frost has passed, which here in the Hudson Valley is around Mother's Day, you can plant the first sister, corn. Most methods of planting the Three Sisters involve creating mounds. This is to help with drainage. Corn and beans especially don't like to get too wet. So you plant the corn and the beans on top of the mounds, and then you plant the squash in between. I like to make my mounds about 1 foot in diameter, and that can handle 1 corn plant and 1 bean plant. When you plant your corn seeds on top of the mound, you have to remember that not all of them are going to sprout. So I usually plant 4 or 5 corn seeds. And then as they start to grow, you thin them out to the best and most robust plant, meaning that you pull all the ones except for the biggest, strongest corn plant. Once your corn is about 6 inches tall or taller, you can plant the second sister, beans. Now, don't get too stressed out about the timing. You want the beans to grow when the corn is big enough to support it. So sometimes you forget and you don't do it on time, and that's okay. You can see that the corn in our school garden was closer to 1 foot tall before I remembered to plant the beans. Gardens are super forgiving. Can you spot the bean seedling in this picture? You can plant sister squash about a week after the bean plant emerges. The amount of squash seeds that you plant altogether is going to depend on the size of your patch. Gardening is a learning process. If you don't get all three sisters to thrive your first year, it might take a little bit of tweaking to figure out what works for you and your property and your space. But there are tons of resources to help you. Thank you so much for joining me today, and good luck with your growing season.